They say the day you record your first comedy special is a bit like your wedding day, except you have to do it twice, and it's just you up there, and there's no officiator, and there's no vows and no flowers. It's nothing like, I don't know. No one says that. Look, guys, I didn't want to do this bit. I just wanted to get stuck in, to the show. Oh, look, a man's offering me a Perrier. But JR, the guy on my right, your left, he said I should open the special with a sort of, behind-the-scenes video showing how the artist prepares. I said that was pretense. He said saying pretense was pretense. And I was tired. And I think it might have been stipulated that I had to do it in the contract. So, here we go. The artist ties his shoelaces. That was a little scene that we shot. The artist eats fruit from the rider. That's a technical term for all the stuff they leave in the dressing room. Gets groomed. Not like that. But, hair and makeup. Drinks coffee. Drinks more coffee. Drinks objectively too much coffee. Panics and genuinely considers doing a runner. Employs raging bull technique to artificially boost self-esteem. You're a funny guy. Reads set. Discards set. Considers writing new set. Visits stage.
Drew! Hey, Drew! Where you at? Drew. Hey, Drew.
Thinks about Drew. Who is Drew? What makes him tick? And why is he so in demand? Wonders whether the sign is big enough. Questions whether size of belly could be reduced in post. Notices a lot of pointing going on. Tests out effectiveness of pointing. Enjoys pointing. Resolves to point more often. Marvels at all the people. He never thought he'd need so many people. The people pressing buttons. The people operating cameras and lights. The person outside scaring the audience. Is rendered incapable of forming complete sentences.
But when we can you
Pretends to understand technical jargon.
What's our white point at? What do we run at? 3,200 or?
Panics about trivial things.
we haven't got the extension cable, have we?
Is left alone in dressing room for extended period of time. Contacts agent to demand show called off. Accepts this has all been a terrible mistake. Discovers fridge has Diet Coke. Performs cool cutaway shot for no reason. Wonders if they really thought he was going to wear the jumper with the big flower. Generates distractions to cope with nerves. Contemplates nature of the self. Eats more fruit. Remembers what the cutaway shot was for. Is forced to make last-minute changes to material to render it, quote, less actively racist. Expresses resentment for having to do behind-the-scenes opener.
How long are you going to be here for?
I spend an inordinate amount of time on the internet doing stupid things, like replying to emails that are not meant for me. I do a lot of that. I get a lot of emails that are not meant. Different features. I got an email that was for Alan and Deb Veach. I have no idea who these people are. No idea. But it was basically they were getting a swimming pool built, and they've had an estimate, and it was a guy called Lex Fisher. Runs a company called Relax Pools. Let that sink in. And the pool was 102 LF. And I thought I'd give it a whirl. I thought I'd just reply. So I replied. I said, look, what does LF stand for? And they got back to me and they said, LF stands for linear feet. Janice did not seem to mind or notice the fact that I was neither Alan nor Deb. And I thought, that's interesting. So she says, see attached plans. Now, guys, these are the plans they attached. Now, that's the neighbouring houses there. That's Alan and Deb's house. And that's the proposed swimming pool in the top left. And I want to make one thing very clear. You should never reply to an email that's not meant for you. You shouldn't do it. You should just, let the people know that they've made a mistake and delete the email. However, looking at that, I don't know about you, but to me, I just didn't think Alan and Deb were going to be happy with that. Long term. I said, Janice, I'm going to be frank. I'm unhappy with the size of the pool. Said, Mr. Veach, it is not legal to build on private property. The pool is as large as it can be without encroaching on your neighbour's property. Old man McPherson? He won't mind. We're still skimping on the size of the pool. I don't want people to come round and be like, where's the pool? all's on the line, Janice. It needs to be larger. How much larger? Boom. That is not possible. No shit, Janice. We cannot build that close to the property. Well, I took out the property. I thought that she would know that I was joking, right? No. She said, where will you live? I said, boom. Guys, I don't know why I do some of the things that I do. Well, I'm just not... I don't think I'm meant to be like an adult. I always thought there was going to... When I was growing up, like, I always thought I'd realised that I was somebody, an adult, some sort of way. You know, I failed my first job interview. This should tell you something about me. I failed my first job interview. I was a cashier in a supermarket. And I failed because when they asked me what my weaknesses were, I said organisation and punctuality. And then when they asked me what my strengths were, I said Russian literature. I always thought there'd be a way that you know that you're a man, you know what I mean? That you know that you're like, oh, this is what adulthood is, and this is, oh, okay, I get it now, and this is what I'm going to do. But that's the way you discover you're a man is the way I think everyone discovers they're a man, which is like you're walking down the street, right, and then someone else is walking down the street with their child, and they say to the child, oh, mind the man, and then you're like, oh, where's the, I'm the man. I was thinking about the fact that, look, everything I thought when I was a child about adulthood has not come to fruition. Everything I thought was so simple as a child has become really complicated. And I was trying to do this with words, and I couldn't really, so I did what I think anyone would have done in this situation. I sent an email to Kinder Surprise. I said, guys, I'm having some significant difficulty putting together one of your surprises. It's really hard, and this is coming from someone with a master's in mechanics. That is not true. I should point that out. That's 100% not true. They got back to me. They said, James, thank you for your email. May I ask what difficulties you were having? Said Stephanie on the consumer relations team. I said, I've been building a toy for 15 hours straight. How you expect children to do this is beyond me. To put this in perspective, I mean, again, that's a lie. She said, our surprises are designed to be assembled by a child of 3 years. I was not happy about that. She said, normally, all our toys come with a set of instructions. Do you have those? And this is what I've been waiting for. I said, yes. Actually, I can't help feeling they could do with being expanded. See attached. Now, truth be told, guys, I did not have those instructions. I didn't even have a Kinder Surprise. But what I did have was 2 free days, and I said, as I think we've already established, a flair for Photoshop. So remember, to illustrate the fact that I think that things that were so simple as a child have now become so complex as an adult. I sent them this. Dear James, I will send you vouchers for a replacement. Like, I view my life as material. Everything I do, I just have fun with it. I think, well, here's an example. It gets me into trouble, basically. I was invited to the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. Really, like, exciting thing to be invited to. And when they invited me to it, they sent me the plans of the venue I was going to be at. So they said, look, that's what it looks like. That's the kind of layout. That's the chairs. That's the lighting rig, etc. And I shouldn't have done this because this is a professional engagement. I don't know these people. They don't know. Why do I do... There's something in me that just makes me... I don't know why. I said, guys, just looking at the PDF, I have 1 or 2 fairly serious concerns. Does this guy... He thinks we can't see him here, but... When I did the Melbourne International Comic, at the beginning, right, they had this gala thing, right, a big gala, and what they do is all the comics come out and they do 5 minutes of stuff, and you leave the stage, right? All the comics, each one. And then at the end of it, what they do is they have this big kind of thing where they make all the comedians come back on stage, and they play this really loud music, and they go goodbye, and they, like, a confetti cannon goes off, and the music comes on, we're all meant to go like, woo, but what's the point? What is the point? In anything, but particularly in that. What is the point? And basically, I just don't like twice I've tried to hide in the bathroom, and twice I've been caught, right? And forced to go on. This time, they literally pushed me on stage. And I did not know this was filmed or aired, you know what I mean? I just thought this was... But someone pointed this out to me. I only watched my bit. I did not know this had been filmed. And someone pointed this out to me, that this is what happened. See if you can spot anything untoward.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for everybody you've seen tonight as I welcome them back on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Good night.
They fucked me. They completely fucked me. Like, honestly, that's the last thing you saw before the adverts. Do you know what that is? I can't hide it. I can't hide it. I don't like tedium. I don't like boring stuff. And that's, you know, what is the... Like, a nightlife is 90% tedium. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to get to the end of my life, and this is what I worry about. I don't want to get to the end of my life and discover I've been paying attention to the wrong things. I spent my life on too much tedium and not the things that are genuinely important. Like, recently, I discovered that I'd spent the lion's share of my... And I'm old, I just moisturise. I'd spent, like, the lion's share of my life saying misled instead of misled when I read it out in a book. I'd be like, oh, misled. He was misled. And a friend said to me, he was like, do you mean misled? And I was like, no. You have been misled. I just worry that sort of thing is going to happen to me. I'm going to get to the end of my life and realize I've been doing something wrong all the way through. And the problem is that there's so many things in this world that we have to pay attention to, and it's hard enough to discriminate between the things that are important and the things that aren't, without companies trying to pretend that they're more important than they are. Here's a case in point. I get my hair cut in London at a place called Headmasters. Obviously. I just can't see. Well, whenever I call up to get my hair cut, I say, can I have an appointment to cut my hair? And they say, well, who do you want to cut your hair? And I say, preferably someone who can. And they say, no, James, we have all these different types of people. We have, like, the stylist, the senior stylist, designer, master hair designer, the TV. What is the point in, like, all these people? They've got the master... How am I supposed to know that a master hair designer is not as good as a team designer or a senior consultant? And they've all got their arbitrary price points. Like, how am I supposed to know that a master hair designer is £3 less than a team designer? What does that mean? Also, where'd you get the stylist from? Did you just drag them off the street? I thought they deserved to be called out on this. So I sent them an email. I said, dear Headmasters, I was pleased with my recent haircut until I saw my friend Nige sporting his haircut. I was devastated to discover, despite paying significantly less than me, Nige had come away with a comparable haircut. How do you account for this? They got in touch. They said, James, I'm really sorry your appointment left you less than satisfied. What exactly were you disappointed by? Your feedback is really important to us. And I said, Jennifer, basically, Nige always books a senior stylist. So I figured by booking my appointment with a master hair consultant, I was ensuring a vastly better haircut. But this was not the case. Also, I didn't get a biscuit with my filter coffee, and he did. I wanted to include some kind of a picture speaks, it says 1,000. So I basically, look, we've got the promise, right? And what I've done is I've got all the kind of I don't think I'm a normal comedian. I mean, I was looking at this the other day and I was like, what the hell is that? When did I make that? I've got yellow arrows and I don't even know what font that is. What am I doing? Anyway, the promise, 30%, the reality, much smaller margin between Nigel and I. Do you know what I mean? So, James, the class of stylists is based on their experience. I'm very sorry that you feel Nigel's haircut is better than yours. Your feedback is really important to us. And I said, oh, I don't, Jennifer. His haircut is definitely worse than mine. It's just that it's worse. I said, I was seen by a master hair consultant. By my calculations, I walked out of the salon just 16.92% shy of the elusive 100% perfect haircut. Yet, despite being cut by a senior stylist, Nigel's hair looks like it could have been done by a teen designer. If I didn't know better, Jennifer, I'd suspect headmasters of fabricating arbitrary job titles to make haircuts seem more important than they are. Also, Nigel got a biscuit and I didn't. I wanted to include some stats, guys, because you can't rely upon words. So obviously, that's where, Nigel should be. That's where Nigel actually is. That's perilously close to me. And that's really what we all aspire to. That's the 100% perfect haircut. I said, James, my manager is asking what you mean when you say 100% perfect haircut. I was really glad she asked me this, because this gave me the opportunity to, I met something like, you know. Dear James, I'm delighted to say we can offer you a free cut and style, 30 minutes. I was like, this is amazing, right? What great, but to be honest, obviously, a question had been left unresolved, so I sent her a pie chart explaining exactly what had happened. It's fairly self-explanatory. It's like, I will make sure there is a biscuit.
In a world filled with distractions, even something as simple as walking down the street can be tough. That's why I never leave the house without my Macintosh Classic. But I never leave the house, but when I do, I always have my Mac. I just carry it with me at all times, is what I'm saying. Whenever a new piece of technology comes into the marketplace, people are intimidated by it. I'm not a teacher, but as an early adopter, I lead the way, and I teach people, so I am also a teacher. But with an 8 megahertz processor, I can pound out spreadsheets like there's no tomorrow. But there is a tomorrow, and it's right after today. And when the workload gets heavy, I bust out my dual setup. I'm James Veitch. I take each day as it comes. The computer does the hard work. Portability's key, whether it be writing a report, updating a spreadsheet, or doing other business things. With the Macintosh Classic, I don't have to be chained to my desk. With just a few adjustments, I can be anywhere. James Veitch, Disruptor. I think we need more magic in the world. That's what I don't like, the tedium. I think we need to do more. So I just do stupid things. Again, I don't know why. I think you saw the thing with the ducks, but the thing with the ducks, I was basically harassing my flatmate by putting like more and more or different. It's a long story. Basically, when I went into that bathroom, I would also do something else, which if this gets aired, she'll discover.
I went in there and I picked up her conditioner, right, in the bathroom. And if her conditioner was less than half full, I would take it into my bedroom, where I bought the same brand conditioner, and I would kind of refill it to like about 2/3 full. And I would cover my tracks as best I could. And then I would put it back in the bathroom. I did that for 1.5 years. And I never mentioned it. And she never mentioned it to me. My question is this: what did she think was happening? Because she didn't have to buy conditioner for 1 year. And the thing is, she must have noticed, right? Because I did it to her conditioner, right? But I did not do it to her shampoo. Still never told her. A lot of companies hire me now to go around to go to the companies and go around the world and kind of do these kind of keynote presentations for them. Because I use slides, they think they're learning. I don't know how to tell them. Every time I do it, I mean, I use these faces, companies, soulless companies. I go around and I do a bit for them in their company. It's a bit, you know, soulless. Every time I do it, I lose a bit of my soul. But I gain a bit of a house. So it seems fair enough. Every time I do it, I have to like sign a speaker form. It's always the same. It's always the same sort of form. You know, it says James Veitch says his name, then it says title, and I don't have a title. I'm like, well, what do I put? But the other person had written president. So I was like, well, fuck it, you know. You could say anything, you know what I mean? You could just, I don't think anyone checks these things because I've been doing it every single one. You know, vice CEO of the chairman board of chairman. Event manager? I said 100% professional businessman. James Veitch, Senorio Importancio. Is that a thing? It sounds like it should be. I'm single. Obviously. No. So I've been doing some dating websites. I was on this one, I was on Guardian Soulmates, right? And but they kicked me off. They kicked me off because they said, we're writing to let you know that your soulmate's profile picture breached our terms and conditions and won't be available to other users. Please note the following. Profile pictures should not contain people other than yourself. And I found this very odd because, well, this is the picture that I was trying to make my profile. That's legitimately... Shit, you know, I just don't think girls are going to be confused by who they're going on a date with. I sent them an email. I said, look, mate, please, I love that picture. Reinstate the picture. The duck works wonders. And they got back to me. This guy called Steve at Soulmates said it's been approved. And I was like, amazing. But I was really annoyed with them for having given me the runaround. And, you know, it was a bit silly. So I sent them a letter from the duck. Dear Steve, it's come to my attention that James Veitch has been using my image without my permission. And then he wrote a lot more, and then he had to sign it, and it was quite, obviously, it was, you know, he just did like a more of a, do you know what I mean? And then I thought, well, sorry, in for a penny. So then I made an actual profile for the duck, because why not, right? Just so I see what happened. Now, despite them saying that duck is a person, right, it wouldn't allow me just to put a picture of a duck up there. I couldn't get away with it. It would pop up a little thing saying your profile picture has been rejected, which really annoyed me because they said a duck was a person. So I discovered what you can do is you can put that picture in and then you wait a few weeks and then you swap it out for one that's very similar. Watch very carefully. You wait a few more weeks, you swap it out again. Pretty soon, guys, pretty soon, you've just gone full duck. Had to answer some questions about me. I said, height, that was the lowest they'd go. Hair, obviously, and obviously star sign, in my own words, I'm just a duck. Standing in front of a girl, asking her to feed me some bread. Fuck me. That gets an applause. Wait for this, guys. Who I'm looking for? Someone who fits the bill. Drop mic legend. Had to do some pictures, right? So I picked the sort of pictures that people normally do on their kind of soulmate's profile, or their dating profile pictures. So I was like, well, okay, first of all, this is so me. and then, cow, serious face, like classic selfie. So a girl messaged me. She said, how can he take the picture? He's got no arms. I'm like, that's your issue with this? You just sent a message to a duck. History is important, obviously, and then you got your and then that's just me, just messing around, you know what I mean? Just. I know they're geese. Now. This is what I didn't anticipate. It's all fun and games until James gets hurt. Within the first 2 weeks, I shit you not, 221 messages. So what I did was prove categorically that I was basically less attractive than a duck. You're not in control of how people see you, really, are you? Like on the internet, particularly, you're no control over the way people view. I know this because when I was messing with the scammers, right, for ages, and I think they must have done something to my Google search thing, because for ages people pointed this out to me. When you search for me, it said James Veitch, and then it said people also search for, and I was like, holy shit. I don't think he was funny at all. Now people say stuff about it, you can't control it. It's like, people say, this guy wrote unfunny joke, long pause and stare at the audience until they laugh. How has this wanker made a career of this? I said, by doing literally that. This guy wrote pretty creative as far as comedians go, but then this other guy wrote beneath it, I kind of thought the opposite. I was like, so I wrote, I mean, he's basically a loser with too much time on his hands. But then you're not even control. You're not even control. Some good person wrote beneath that. You don't know him personally. You have no right to... I was genuinely confused. James Veitch looks like an adorable bug. I will take it. I don't know why, but I think you look like a young Stephen Hawking in a way. How young? And he's hot. If you're into that kind of thing. I could leave that pause for so long. Because I'm like, and he's hot, and I want everyone to go, yeah, he is. But instead you all go like, uh-huh. And the joke. Now I'm doing all right. Now, if you search for me, this is what happens. You search for James Veitch. It says, related, James Veitch emails. Of course.
When it comes to true portability, it's hard to go wrong with the MessagePad 130. Whether it be crunching numbers with the onboard calculator, generating a virtual business card, or simply capturing my whimsical ideas, the MessagePad 130 has me covered. Does your mind feel tangled up? Ease the pressure by writing down as much as you can. It's called a brain dump, and aided by my MessagePad, I've taken brain dumps all over the London Underground. Other people may choose different devices. Not everyone can take the cutting edge. But with storage for more than 200 contact numbers, I know I shan't be alone for long. James Veitch, communicator.
Got to be careful out there. I was on Tinder, and this girl called Maureen messaged me. She was really beautiful, and she said, "Hey, are you around?" And I was like, "Hello there." In fact, I said hello there, and then she said, "I would just want to say, I think you're very sexy," and I was like, "Oh, glad someone has noticed." I said, "Well, you ain't so shabby yourself, Maureen. What do you do?" And she said, "I'm tired. I've had such a long day." And I said, "Well, likewise, plans for the weekend?" It wouldn't have escaped your attention. I was bringing some quality banter to the situation. And then she said, I'm feeling a bit naughty. I know. That's exactly what I thought. And I said, not declaring income naughty or naughty. Because I know which one I am. The income one. It's the income one. She said, "Do you like girls?" I was like, okay. I said, well, I love the first season. She said, "Gonna change my clothes. Want to watch?" I was like, well, I mean, not really. Do you want to watch me descale the kettle? What are we doing here? Why? Then she said, "I'm naked. What are you wearing?" And I was like, well, okay, I'll play along. I said, I'm wearing chinos and an Apple Watch and Mitch. Unless you count my, there's all the other things. And then she said, it really escalated because she said, "Have you ever made a girl come?" And I was like, well. Almost certainly. But I was beginning to get a bit suspicious. Because she had not been replying to any of my questions. She'd just been seeing a series of predefined statements. And I was beginning to think that maybe she was like a sex robot, not in like a good way, in like a way that she's designed to get me to click a link. I click the link, I go to some sort of sex site, there are loads of beautiful girls, they get naked. I start going back to the site, I become obsessed, I make it like a log, and I start spending a lot of money on the site. I get spiraled into debt. I don't know, I've never clicked the link. But I thought maybe I'd try something. Have you ever heard of the Turing test? Okay, we haven't. It's a test invented in 1930 by Benedict Cumberbatch, designed principally to test whether someone's a robot or not. So I said, blah, 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 gobbledygook, and then she said, "Click join to watch cam." I was like, oh. I said, you know, your feet. Whenever I book an appointment for the doctors online, well, first of all, I don't know if I love doing this to the doctors. I just treat it like a shop. Like, I just Google the symptoms for the medication that I want. And I get there, I say, "I have those." And the doctor says, "Well, we have nothing for that." And I say, "Well, I think if you check your computer thing, you'll discover the Valium will be very effective." Anyway, I go to the doctors, and whenever I go there, they ask me to confirm my booking, and they ask me to enter my reason for the appointment. This bothers me, because, I'll just tell the doctor, like the good old days. I don't need to enter my reason, become part of the stats. It's often a personal thing. So I wrote, "Concerned I'm going to die." And they didn't like that. They wouldn't give me the appointment. So next time, I wrote, "Death is inevitable." And I did get the appointment, but this is not recommended, because what that meant was I had to spend like 20 minutes explaining to the doctor that I was not depressed. She was like, "But you've written death is inevitable." I said, "It is." Did they not? They should have told you this on day one. This is a losing battle you are fighting here. And then because of that interaction, she was a bit flustered. And what she said, basically, I think what she really got the wording wrong. What she wanted to say was, "Have you had suicidal thoughts?" But she really messed up the wording. Because what she actually said was, "Have you considered suicide?" said, I didn't even know that was an option. I can see 3 possible treatments, Mr. Veach. There is psychodynamic therapy, there is a course of medication, or, and I know this may sound unconventional, you could just end it all. I went to see a therapist a while ago, and they gave me, I just want to speak to a person, but again, they gave me this form to fill in. They said, oh, you can't see someone until you filled in the adult intake assessment form. And I was like, can I not just speak to someone and then I'll fill in the form if I need therapy? And they said, no, you have to fill in the form. So I went to the waiting room, and I filled in the adult intake assessment form. The first question was, what do you consider to be the top 3 stresses in your life? And number 1, right up there, was obviously adult intake assessment forms. Really, you know, and then the second, swiftly followed by the formal classification of ineffable and principally subjective thoughts for the purpose of generalized psychometric analysis. Airport security. And then I went back to the reception area, and I said, look, I filled in your form. And she said, no, turn the page, and there was another one. There was another one. This one was a multiple choice form. And I was like, can I not? They said, no, you have to fill in that form as well. I was like, right. This was a multiple choice form, and the first question was, how often do you misplace things at home? And I said, often. And then they said, how often do you have difficulty getting things in order? And I said, well, rarely. But then I realized I'd had some difficulty, and I'd actually got these in the wrong... How often do you make careless mistakes when you have to work on a boring or difficult project? And I said, absolutely never. I was having a great time. How often do you find yourself unable to make decisions? Spent a long time thinking about this one. I said, sometimes. But then I realized I don't know. When you're in a conversation, how often do you find yourself finishing the sentences that I was like, literally all the time. Got in to see the therapist. It was great fun because you get to answer all the fun ones. Like she was saying to me, she was just asking me all of these. She was saying, "Do you ever not listen to the question?" I was like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Best question was the last one. She said, "I'm so sorry, James. I have to ask you this. Do you ever hear voices?" And I went like this. I went. No. Do you know, in your passports, you have, like, emergency contact. That's a British passport, but your American passport, you'll have emergency contacts in them. Has anyone filled those in? Has anyone filled in the emergency... Yeah, who have you put in?
My dad.
Your dad. Anyone else? Yeah, who have you put in?
Mom and dad.
Be cool if you put in her dad. You know, it'd be really weird. Anyone else? One down here? Who do you put in?
My sister.
Your sister. I just put Matthew McConaughey in. I don't know him. He doesn't know me. But I think if there's an emergency, he'll know what to do. I spelled Beverly Hills wrong. I apologize for that. I carry this passport everywhere I go, which means that if something happens to me, Matthew McConaughey is going to have to be the one who relays the information to my family. Which means it's going to be double-edged, isn't it, really? Because my mum's going to be like, well, something terrible happened to James. But guess who told me? I put them on everything. I'm like, I put them on all the thing, you know, I just put them on all these different, you know, kind of, you know, every time I just put them on. Here's what I think should happen, right? I want everyone, because who's not put anyone in emergency contact in their passport? Go home, pull it out, pop McConaughey in. Guys, if we get enough people to do this, we could change his entire career. Wouldn't that be amazing? We could change his entire life. If enough people do it. Imagine if I get like 40, 50 million people to put Matthew McConaughey in as the emergency contact. Eventually, the passport people, they'd just start printing it. They'd be like, well, enough people do it, we may as well just print it in there. So you get McConaughey and one more. Someone filled in the second emergency contact. No? I just put McConaughey in again. I put his Austin, and I found his actual cell phone number. I haven't called it, but I think it's going to be amazing because they're going to be like, this is ridiculous. We can't get a hold of Matthew McConaughey. Who's next? Keep trying. So I've got a few scams for you. So basically, the best scams, the best ones to have fun with are the ones that pretend to come from friends of yours. Because you can just say anything you want to. You can set traps. I got one from my friend Catherine. I'm reporting to be from her. It said, "Dear James, our journey has turned sour." Classic Catherine. "We misplaced our wallet, passport, and cell phone. I will indeed be grateful if I get a loan of 1,800 euros from you." And I said, "Catherine, of course I can help. Is everything okay? How's Keith doing?" Said James, and so glad you replied, but are you headed? It was always Western Union. I said, of course, don't worry. How's Keith, though? I said, James, Keith is fine. He's having a meeting now with the British Embassy to get replacement passports. So quit thinking. Please go to Western Union. I said, I'll pop along first thing tomorrow. I must say, though, Keith seems remarkably capable I remember he could roll over. He could woof for a treat. Now he's thinking meetings at the British Embassy.
Photography, for me, is not just a job. It's a way of life. I mean, it's not my job, but it's also a way of life. It's a way of looking at the world and just seeing what's there. And that's why I use my QuickTake 100 for all my shots. James Veitch, photographer.
To be so high, love, to be like nobody else, love. That's how I love you more. Beyond the midnight, beyond the words that I thought were so wise, beyond the reason why. No, I don't have an answer. I only know I'm with you.
When I was replying to scam emails, I learned to spot all the different types of scams. Like, you've all heard of the Nigerian prince, but you might not have heard of the altruistic widow or the cache of gold that a soldier finds in Iraq. Those are equally ubiquitous scams, but the hardest ones for me to deal with, being single, were the honey traps, because beautiful girls would email me out of the blue, and they'd be like, I love you, and I'd be like, I genuinely wish this were the case. And they were really well-written, three-dimensional characters. Elena, oh, she was amazing. Elena said, I'm a girl who loves to give people happiness always, which is amazing because that's exactly the sort of girl I was looking for. My hobbies are reading novels, jogging, listening to music, cooking, listen to music, TV and movies. I said, that's amazing. My hobbies are playing piano and guitar, pining for girls, worrying about climate change, pining for girls, and the poetry of John Keats. She sent me a picture of her. She was pretty beautiful. Look at that. She's so beautiful. That was the picture. And I was like, wow, she's look, I said, that's amazing. You know, obviously, you know. Then she admitted, she said, this is me and my passport. I know. I was like, well, okay, what are we, you know. What are we doing? She said, all men look on my visual aspect, and I want somebody who will look inside me. Grow up. I said, I'm so sorry you haven't found anyone to look inside you yet. Here's something interesting, right? She's trying to scam me, but I'm also kind of trying to scam her. I'm trying to pretend to be the person who I think she wants me to be, right? Because basically, I was getting loads of material out of this. So I was like, wanted to keep it going. And I thought, who is Elena's ideal mark? Who does she want to scam? So I said this. I said, I've made a lot of money, but I don't have anyone to spend it on. It just sits in a Swiss account, earning interest. How boring. Don't go thinking I'm some sort of business mogul. I'm not. I just made a few shrewd investments along the way. The reason it's always hummus, guys, because basically when I was writing all the scams, my desk was in my kitchen. So they were like, what should we invest in? I was like, I don't know, hummus, right? You know, that's why it's always the toaster and the kettle and the microwave. But it's gotten a bit out of hand. Like, one of these went a bit viral, and then someone messaged me last year. They screenshotted a chat what they'd had with the scammer, right? Where they said to the scammer, what should we invest in? And the scammer said hummus. What the fuck is going on? Maybe hyper-aware, guys. Potentially, this same show is going on in Nigeria, just the other side of it. I wish I had someone to share my life and wealth with, something to keep me from those bi-weekly money bonfires I have in the garden for tax purposes. She said, I believe you're a very attractive man. I'm excited, and my head is like any big station with a lot of voice. How long... She sent me a picture of herself, right? This is another picture she sent me, right? She sent me a picture of her holding up a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper is written my email address, which I've since had to redact because of all you motherfuckers sending me emails saying, hey, Kit Kat, how about some hummus? I can't cope with it anymore. Right. Would seem that that's proof that it's her, that she's the one sending me the emails. Well, no, it's not. What's happened basically is probably a guy has taken a series of pictures of a beautiful girl, right? One of her, in a shop, another of her holding up a passport, a few which I've not shown you, and then one of her holding up a blank piece of paper. And then every time he wants to scam someone, he just uses Photoshop to put their email address on the piece of paper. And that's when I realized something. I realized I have a copy of Photoshop as well. So I popped it in there, and I sent her this. I said, hi, Lena. Really good to hear from you. You know, using this piece of paper to communicate. Superb idea. I didn't hear anything from her, so I thought I'd trust. I was like, okay, well, let's make... And I didn't hear anything back, so I went thermonuclear, and I sent her there like, ah! She is Russian, so it makes sense. I've no real way of beginning this, apart from saying that I think it was just because I was bored. But I put a flux capacitor for sale on Craigslist. Do you know what? It's from the Back to the Future movies. If you have one of these, you can travel back and forth in time. And I put one up for sale. I said I discovered I had an extra one after a fuck-up in the space-time continuum. That means that I have two of everything. Now, I put it up, so I do these things. I just pop them out there, and I just see, and then eventually, basically, I just waited to see if someone, and eventually a guy did reply. A guy called Joe Lawson replied. He said, so I can use this to go back to the future, right? Question mark, smiley face. And I said, you certainly can, Joe. But crucially, I now had Joe's email address. Which is not a strong position for him to be in. Anyway, because it was a flux capacitor, because it was a time machine, what I then did is I went to gmail.com and I set up another email address, this time for future Joe Lawson at gmail.com. Some of you could see the future of this bit. I then sent Joe an email. from himself. From the future. Dear Joe Lawson, this is future Joe Lawson. I've come to warn you, do not buy the flux capacitor. Trust me on this is a bad idea. Yours sincerely, future Joe. That's obviously not great news, so I wanted to give him a stock tip. So I said, obviously, you know, who is this? I said, it's you, Joe. 30 years from now, it's mostly the same, except now you're big into hummus. Oh. Enjoy those heady days of Abreeves. Ha ha, okay, you're the guy from Craigslist. We got there in the end. Good one, but you've gone too far. I didn't think I had gone too far. So what I then did is, because it's a time travel machine, is I went to gmail.com again and I made another email address, this time for future Joe Lawson. I then sent Joe an email from the future of the future. Copying in future Joe Lawson. I am future Joe Lawson. This is what I fucking love about my audience. They love a good font joke. Do you know what I mean? If you don't love a good font joke, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I am from a future far beyond future Joe's. I just wanted to chime in and say you can say if you purchase a flux capacitor, it all works out in the end. Hummus still good. But future Joe was not happy. He replied to all. Why should Joe Lawson and I, future Joe Lawson, trust you? Future Joe was even less happy. He said, you are not future Joe Lawson, you are both past Joe Lawson. Okay, stop emailing me. I'm going to be very honest with you. I've forgotten about him. I was just having a great... I was like, oh, shit, he's still here. You know what I mean? I'm having a great time. Please fuck off. Future Joe was like, well, you know, Joseph, this probably isn't super helpful to point out, but you know, you did just tell yourself to fuck off. I mean, if you think about it, actually, you know what I mean? Like, you know... He said, Joe, I've had an idea. I'm going to use the flux capacitor to go forward in time and work out whether future Joe can be trusted. I'm at work. I started, so I couldn't just stop. Do you know what I mean? Future Joe, I did it, Joe. I've gone further into the future, but I can't see future Joe anywhere. Holy shit, I just realized something. He said, look, I actually can't deal with this right now. I am future Joe Lawson. I'll be honest, it's a bit of a head fuck, but there you go. He said, I'm blocking you, so I had to get in quick. I said, your feedback is really important. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Take care. Can I get your fax number? Just going to make a little note to myself. I've got a to-do list. Speak to man on tube. And then I've actually done that, because, you know, so I can actually tick that one off.
I see beauty in the world. When this guy moves, there'll be beauty in the world. The res on this is like nothing you've ever seen. So hang on, I'll take one of me now. Hang on, hold tight. So I'll send that one to you. You're just gonna give me about half an hour. No, I'll fax it. Sorry, just had to capture that moment. You can't miss these things. Do you know what I mean? You can't. Although to be fair, I'm running out of space. I've already used up 16 kilobytes, so it's not even working. I don't know why we're